Welcome to another episode of Avenue A, coming to you live from just outside Portland, Oregon. Thanks for joining us. It's been a long week, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm very excited about our special guest today. But before I introduce her, I was just thinking, a lot this week and earlier today. And so I wanted to make a little shout out and share how grateful I am to, the healthcare workers who are still out there, on the front lines helping people who are infected with COVID, and then also to all the people who are still out there protesting, and to those of you who are donating and signing petitions and making your voice heard in the fight for equality, and to be active anti-racist allies. So the work is far from over, and I know that it's sort of not trending in the news anymore, but I just I've been thinking about how important it is to keep our momentum going, and so thank you to those of you who are also keeping the momentum going and keeping the fight alive. That being said, I'm really excited to introduce our guest. So her name is Presleigh Renner. And a little backstory on Presleigh, just her and I met about 4 years ago at NYU. We went to the same program together, and just this spring, right before COVID hit, we were in a musical together called Promenade, and so that's really where we got to know each other. And she is just a fabulous human being, first and foremost, but then she's also an amazing performer, and she's super hilarious, and just an all-around great gal. So a little bit about her. Presleigh is a Chicago and New York City-based actor and performer, and she's a recent graduate, like I said, of Tisch School of the Arts at NYU, part of the lucky class of 2020. Heyo, me too. She was also recently signed with Paonessa Agency in Chicago, which is super exciting. Presleigh is a performer with experience in acting on camera, with dance, voice, mime, dialects, improvisation, Shakespeare, playwriting, and screenwriting, to name a few, and impressions, which is awesome. And she's passionate about bringing fully developed, complex characters to life, which I can attest she does very well. In her free time, she writes stories, plays, and short films, with the through line of her work being to highlight the female experience and all of the ghastly, frustrating, and wonderful things that come with it. She carries a wonderful attitude of yes and is a delight to be around on stage and off. So I'm delighted to bring on Presleigh.
Hello. Hi. How's it going?
Thanks for being on the show.
No, of course. Thank you. I was so excited. I've been loving the other episodes so far.
Well, thank you. Before we jump into our interview, I really want to give our audience a little taste of Promenade. So Promenade, like I said before, was the musical that Presleigh and I were in together, and we actually just closed in March, and then like a week later we all came home for quarantine. Which was really lucky that we got to do it. And Presleigh played this outrageous character. And so we have to play a clip from the show just for you all to see. So a little context. Do you want to give some context, Presleigh, just for like your character and like what's happening here?
So she's a character that loves attention. She needs to have someone romantically interested in her at all times. And at this very moment, and for most of the play, the person who she's in love with is just not paying attention to her. And so she's got to take the attention right back.
And boy, she does. Okay, so also when I put the clip up, so Presleigh's obviously the one in the middle, and then I'm off to the right side doing in my character reacting. So here we go. Buckle up.
If you wanted to teach me to be wise, the lesson was bad. There is no
Yes. Okay. So there it is.
It's so fun to watch because the whole time we were rehearsing it, I couldn't see what you guys were doing next to me. So it's nice to see what you guys were doing the whole time. But yeah, I miss that show so much.
I do too. And you really, you just hit it out of the ballpark and over the next ballpark and into the next ballpark.
So did you.
Thanks. Okay, so that was just a fun little context for how Presleigh and I really, became good friends and colleagues. So Presleigh, I'm wondering, what is your definition of networking, and how has your experience both on the casting side of things I know you had a casting internship, which you can talk about if you'd like, and both your experience at NYU and now your experience being signed with an agency. Talk about if those have shifted your personal definition of networking.
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot since I entered into this world. I feel like when I was always described networking before, I always thought of it as sort of this like big banquet hall with people with high top tables and cocktails, like walking around peacocking and talking about their next project. But really, it's a lot more word of mouth than that in our industry. I feel like a lot of it has to do with keeping in touch with the people that really impact you, that you meet. Like you, that when, we've known each other all through school, and I was lucky enough to spend some time with you in Promenade, but also, people who I did meet at, my casting internship, where if you meet someone who you feel a genuine connection with rather than how can this person help me, I think that those connections can be even more fruitful as long as you feed into them and keep them alive.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. I'm learning a lot that networking is more about keeping the connection, right? Like it's easy to make connections with people, but the hard part is sort of following up and striking the balance between being present and following up and being forward, I guess, but not being too forward or annoying or a pest or something, if you don't have an immediate contact with this person.
Right. And I think especially now, while we're all so far away from each other and we're all scattered to all these different parts of the country, it's a lot easier to see, what connections remain strong through this sort of crazy test, for lack of a better word. And how we can continue to work with each other when, we're all spread out around the country and may not necessarily be returning to where we met each other.
Yeah, that's so true. When you were working at your casting internship, can you talk a little bit about, first of all, like what role you played in that and like what the internship was, and then also what you learned about networking specifically from being on the other side?
Right. So it was a lot of monitoring, which is, the person who takes your headshot is scheduling, moving everybody's schedule around, and, we're ready for you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that. So, you learn a lot as far as what it's like on the other side and what it's like to get, actors running up to you all day. And then what it's like to be in a room of nervous people and of genuine human beings. I'm sure we've all gone into an audition where we felt like we were kind of, it's called a cattle call for a reason. Like you don't feel like a human being. And so I learned a lot about how treating each other as human beings and treating having each other's emotions and each other's thoughts in mind. You can build connections from one side of the table to the other. Even with the person who's monitoring you, who's sending you in, you never know how much input that person's going to be. So it's important to have, everybody's best interest in mind, even your own, because you never know who's going to be sitting there. A lot of the people that monitor will then go into the room and talk about how people were sitting outside. So, that kind of networking can be incredibly important, because I would remember when someone was specifically really nice to me, or if someone came up to me, an actor came up to me and said, oh, this must be a really long day for you guys too. That means so much to the person sitting across the table, because it humanizes the both of you.
Yeah, I think that that's an amazing perspective and something that is easy to forget too when you're the actor and you're trying to make connections with people, and you go in the room and the people sitting behind the table who are watching you perform are the ones, right? But there's also like you're saying, the monitor outside and the person at the front desk, and like you never know, like if you're treating those people poorly, it will get back to the people who are making the decisions. Yeah. That's a good reminder. So how has a failure or maybe apparent failure set you up for later success? And do you have a favorite failure of yours?
I talk with my family and my friends a lot about my experience at NYU, where the first few years, and honestly, I would even go up to the first 3 years, I had a really hard time finding work within NYU, like finding student productions, finding different things like that. I just felt like I would keep auditioning and it wouldn't happen for me. And I always respected the people cast and felt it was the right decision, but I never really felt like I could easily find my place in the student body. And so what I learned from that was that, and what I learned in New York in general, was that, your bubble, in order to really grow yourself, you need to exit your bubble and see how it all works out for you. I feel like when I did audition outside of school, when I felt like, I was a freshman, I wasn't really being considered. Oh my goodness, Daniel.
Hey.
Yes. When I was a freshman, I didn't feel like I was being taken very seriously, of course, as nobody does. But then you realize that it's just in that bubble. When you go outside in the world, you have a lot more of your joy to give to other people and a lot more of your art to give to other people. So it's a lot about not focusing in on the group that you want to get into, but casting a wide net and meeting all different kinds of people, even if they're not from your school, even if they're not even in the same profession as you. I just learned how to widen my net for my failures, and it really worked out for me, because then I gained the confidence to continue trying no matter how many times I heard no. And eventually it led up to my favorite experience, honestly, I can say, of all time, which was Promenade. So yeah, seriously, a wig and glitter, and I mean, what else can you ask for? But yeah, just pretty much that your failures, if you fail in one place, you might not necessarily fail in another. And then who's to say that you're going to fail in that one place forever? So build yourself up somewhere else and then head back over and try it again.
Yeah. Head back over and try it again. I like that, because it feels so, when you like have a perceived failure, It can be so hard. Like I know I very much relate to what you were talking about, specifically in the NYU bubble. I had a hard time my first few years too, sort of like gaining traction and finding my place, I guess.
Right.
And it wasn't really until Promenade where I also felt like, okay, like this is the show for me. Like I feel like I fit here.
Right.
But yeah, it was really discouraging for me as well. I think the first couple of years, especially because I was like on the other side of the country and I was in this new place, especially it being New York, you know, it's so big. And I did take the NYU bubble to like as the world. Like I was like, this is it, you know? And so when I hit some roadblocks, it was really hard. And so I love that you talk about widening your bubble and then and just putting yourself in a bunch of different positions to succeed. And maybe a lot of them will fail, but something will happen.
Right. I think a lot of networking in our
yeah, that's some queen shit.
yeah, a lot of network in our industry is like just kind of I keep saying word of mouth, but that's really just how it goes. Hey, Emma.
Hi, Emma.
I feel like you never really realize how much of a bubble you're in until you leave it. And so, you know, it only will benefit you to get your work out there to different places that you never thought of beforehand.
Yeah. How are you handling networking now that it's all really over email? I know this wasn't an official question, but I'm just wondering because, you know, you got signed with an agency, which is so great. And so you're obviously doing things. So how has that been for you over the last few months?
You know, I think that I just learned that if you have one opportunity that comes, you're blessed to let it come your way. I think you just have to capitalize on it. So you have to think of every way that opportunity could help you. But yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as everybody. You know, we're all in the same boat where it's like, we're just trying to find the different things we can. I'm in Chicago now. And so I'm Googling Chicago theaters and Chicago auditions, as well as New York auditions. And at this point, I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. I'm willing to go pretty much anywhere in the country that's safe to do what I want to do. So, it's been about widening the search. And, you know, even if it's through email, hey, Owen, even if it's through email, then, you know, just making sure to thank everybody because it's a hard time for everybody out there. And a thank you can go such a long way, especially because the things that used to be so offhand and easy for us now take a lot of energy. Even though they're right here in front of us, it takes a lot of emotional energy to continue, even though it's really, really tough out there, you know?
It is. And making connections is tough, I find too, especially now because we're just like for me, I'm like in my parents' living room, you know, like trying to like pursue my career. And it's hard. It can be hard. Yeah.
It's very hard. And of course, when, you know, like Kelsey, you're such a great, since I met you, was like, that girl's got a work ethic. And like, it's having to kind of reconcile with the fact that, yes, we did work so hard and it's not our situation right now is not as so much, it's not our creation at all.
Right.
So it's keeping that confidence of, no, I have worked hard, like it will happen. I just have to sort of sit here and be patient. I'm trying to listen to my own words as I say this because I'm like struggling with this.
I am too. And when you said that, I was like, ooh, yeah, okay, thank you for the reminder.
Yeah.
The patience is hard. Okay, so I'm wondering, so you mentioned how, you know, you're in Chicago now, and obviously you trained in New York, so you have experience in both places. So I'm wondering, what are 3 things that you learned about the acting industry, specifically from working in New York City, that you maybe hadn't learned from your experience in Chicago?
When I did theater in Chicago and got my training, my first basis of training here, it was much more traditional in the sense that, you know, it was like I would go and audition for a play and that would be yes or no. But then when I moved to New York, I realized that our job as actors is just much more varied than I ever thought that it was. You know, when you get into the commercial realm and now even the reality realm, one of my first things that I booked when I got to New York was like the title sequence of a reality TV show. And you realize that our world is just so much bigger than you think it is, which is a blessing and a curse, of course. It can be very overwhelming, but a definite blessing in the sense that, you can discover certain niches or certain different places in our industry where you never really imagined that you would be able to work in. And then I also learned that I feel like we all see, a lot of people in our industry, at least, and I did, see New York City as this sort of apex for what we're supposed to do. But I realized as I was there, and maintaining my connections in Chicago and in other places, that there's a lot of places in this country and in this world to be an actor. And there's a lot of places where things are being created. And you don't have to go to the place that's the hottest or the coolest to create a career for yourself. If anything, it can be easier to make a career in other places.
That's interesting. So I think conversely, then I'm wondering, since your experience in New York sort of opened your eyes to like all of the possibilities that, an actor can be. Mm-hmm. Now approaching the Chicago scene again, now that you're there, obviously things are on hold, but what do you, like, are you approaching it differently now that you have experience in New York?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, obviously, like, coming back with all my training and my better knowledge of the business, I just know what kind of things to look for and who to contact too, because it's important to keep in contact with people who, who I grew up with, who are now, going to Columbia College for film, or going to, it's important to keep in touch with people from every facet of the industry. And I don't know if I would have learned that so well if I hadn't been in New York and auditioning for weird lip gloss commercials and things like that.
But at least you got to take home the free lip glosses, right? That's such a perk.
Yes, I got a free lip. Like, it was the best audition ever. Like, how many times do you get like a gift as you're leaving? That was
a goodie bag. Hello.
A goodie bag. It almost brought me to tears.
That's brilliant. Okay. So I'm wondering, my favorite question. Mm-hmm. Who is someone that is not in your network that you wish was, and how would you go about getting them into your network?
I wish that I asked you about this earlier. Like, I was like, I wish that I had someone who was a really good, like, producer of, like, beats, or like a music producer, basically.
Yeah.
I wish that I played more instruments than I do. Like, you can probably tell from my bangs, but like, I play ukulele and that's it. And so I wish I played more instruments, and I feel kind of limited because I do write songs and melodies and I sing. And so I feel a little bit limited to just, strumming on my ukulele and, really sad songs. It's tough to like have people take them seriously on the ukulele. So, I would love to find someone who could produce basically some vocals or produce a certain melody or a beat under a melody. And I was thinking about how I could contact them. And I think that, now Instagram is just so prevalent in all of our networking. Sometimes I want to take a break from social media, but it's tough because I feel like it's so central to our career and knowing what's going on and who's auditioning for what and who has a song coming out and who has a podcast coming out or a live show coming out. So, I'm definitely looking at Instagram much more as a tool these days, because I just feel like I'm seeing such great work come out through Instagram. And I feel like I would be able to find someone through that, whether it's one of my friend's songs or something else, who I could work with.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. Have you ever thought about you mentioned you write music. Would like recording an album be something that would be interested in? Is that like a direction you'd want to go?
Yeah, totally. My brother is super into music, and Tate Renner Music. Check him out.
Hey,
He's
shout out.
super into music, and he and his friends record a lot of songs. So, and we recorded a lot of things together, mostly for our parents' gifts. But I don't know. I definitely have thought. So my family's very musical, so it's in my head has always been like, oh, I do sort of have an album of songs, but they need to be produced and actually recorded and actually followed through with. But yeah, I would definitely consider actually making something.
So I'm wondering, because I feel like you and I are very similar in this regard, which is that you have such a versatile voice. Like you can sing any style. I don't think I've heard you sing very many styles, but I've heard you sing a little bit of country, obviously musical theater, classical. You can belt, and it seems like you enjoy a lot of different styles of singing. So I know for myself, I feel similarly. Like I enjoy a lot of different styles of singing, and I've never been able to really put myself in one category of like, this is the type of vocal artist that I am, and this is the type of music that I sing. And that's always kind of been confusing and hard for me, like, because I can't put myself in a box. And so then when people, just talking about me as a solo artist, maybe people are like, well, like, what's your genre? And I'm like, everything. So what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that of course, at the end of the day, we have to remember that it's such a blessing. It's a blessing to be versatile. I think that it's hard, and you and I both studied with Michael Grenham at Stella Adler, who said you have to earn your versatility, and I think that's totally true. And I feel like right now it's definitely an asset to have those different ranges because at any audition we could send something in. I think that when it'll begin to be more pigeonholed is like hopefully if we have these careers where we're known as the belter, the operatic singer, or the country or the rock girl, like I think that's when it'll get more difficult. But I do understand, of course, it's wondering like, oh, if I focus in on this one voice part and I work on this all the time, will I be just like really great in this one and then I'll have a career in that? That's all I'll have to worry about. But I don't know. I just am sort of feeling like in this time, it's good that we can submit to what we want to submit to.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think specifically thinking about musical theater, now that there are the traditional musical is not necessarily such a thing anymore. I mean, we still love a lot of the traditional stuff, but I think a lot of the musicals that are being produced now or created now are very different and very unique and have different voice styles. So in that sense, like I definitely agree with you, and that's nice to hear because I think that's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I hope it's true. I feel like thus far it has been. Like when we did Promenade, for example, like I hadn't really sang opera, like classically or opera in that world since high school, but I'm so glad that it came in handy in that moment. I feel like it's good to have a box of tricks.
Okay, that's so funny that you say that because I think specifically for Promenade, like I think our director, Melissa, like she was so good at like prying into people's boxes of tricks. You know what I mean? Like I feel like every single one of us, like we had, like you were doing so many things. Like you mentioned you have this baby impression, right? That you did during the show.
Yes.
And that you mentioned that you had never, like, that's never come in handy like that before. But then like all of a sudden.
Actually, it was the inverse. I have done that in every show that I have been in.
Oh, no way.
I don't know why. For some reason, it's a hit. Like, I don't know why, but it just always comes in handy. Like, I did it in Stella Adler rehearsal projects. I did it.
Oh my God.
I did it in a lot of, like, even before college shows. I did it in some summer shows. Like, I don't know what it is, but the baby thing, really. But yes.
It's a hit.
Knows. She has a sixth sense. She built that world. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hate to be like this person, but like, could you do the voice, the sound, the baby sound,
Okay.
just to give our viewers, just to give it to them.
Just for anybody who doesn't, you know.
Thank you. That was like insane. And in the show, we had it over a megaphone. It was so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to brag about it too much, but you know,
Yeah, I'll just bring
we
it
all
up
have
and make you brag about it.
we all have our gifts.
You do. Well, I love that it's come so in handy for you. It's like, you know, you probably never thought when you were developing that voice, however long ago, that it would be like a thing.
It's also my special skill thing, you know, when you walk in and they're like, "Oh, you can, you know, you can spin 3 times," you know, if that's my thing. You know. I can't do a backflip or anything, but I can do that. So
Perfect. And it comes in handy. So people, it's a hot commodity. That was so real. My cat got worried.
oh my gosh.
That's awesome. Well, Presleigh, we are just about out of time. So thank you for being on the show. It was so fun. I feel like we're hanging out.
I know.
I miss seeing you every day because we would spend so many hours. I know. So thank you. And thank you for your thoughtful insight. Your answers to those questions were really calming. I feel like you just seem like you have a really like nice grasp, and the way your perspective is, it's just lovely. So thank you for sharing it with us.
No, thank you for having me. It's so fun.
Well, have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye bye. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, yes. So if you want to follow Presleigh on social media, she's the best. You should follow her. IG at Presleigh Lynn, and then Facebook is just Presleigh Renner. And then you can also find her website, www.presleighrenner.com. So check her out because she's the best. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.